Welcome to Freddie's Huge Ask Podcast. Huge lives and the stories behind them.
3, 2, 1.
And now here's your host, Freddie Cruz.
Hey, look, I don't care what mom and dad say. Great and interesting things do happen on social media. Because a few months back, I found a company called SaltyLama on LinkedIn. And after reaching out to them for a collaboration, I was contacted by their co-founder and CEO, Ben Smith. The rest is history. You've heard me talking about them on the podcast. They make eco-friendly laundry detergent strips. And today, Ben is on the podcast.
Yes, hi. Thanks, Freddie, for having me on your podcast. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. So I got to ask first and foremost, because we've talked a couple of times before, but I've never asked you, why laundry detergent? Like, do you love washing clothes that much?
Well, Freddie, so how it kind of started was that we looked for something that was going to make the biggest impact, right, on the environment, and what is making the biggest negative impact on the environment currently. And consumables is one of the largest detriments to the environment, right? And one of the largest things that, well, most consumables these days, they have single-use plastics, and they are really toxic to the environment with all the toxic chemicals, etc. And we decided that, one of the things that people use a lot of is laundry detergent. And most of your normal laundry detergent comes in plastic containers, is really toxic for the environment. And yeah, that's just one of the things that we went with. And what we created was basically something that is 4% of the weight of regular laundry detergent, so your regular liquid and powder laundry detergent. So it's 4% of the weight. That means 4% of the transport CO2 emissions, right? And then also the entire thing is plastic-free, zero waste, and all natural ingredients.
It seems like you're fighting a two-pronged battle. So on one end, the environment and all the waste that is going into our oceans and into our landfills. And this blew my mind because this is something that we just take for granted. We want clean clothes because we obviously don't want to smell. And if we smell is because there's bacteria in our clothes, and we don't want bacteria and creepy crawlies all over us. So I mean, we have to stay clean. We want to stay clean. We want to be presentable. We want to look professional. We want to look good. We want to be attractive. We want blah, blah, blah. Right. So it was, over 1 billion jugs in our landfills. And then this blew my mind, and not in a good way. Over 24 trillion pieces of microplastics in our oceans. Yeah. Some of it as a result of washing synthetic apparel. So on one end, you've got the environmental battle. And then on the other, you have got like the patience battle, which this is 2022, man. We live in the age of the internet and social media and impatience and instant gratification. So all of this to say or ask, how do you, one, remain optimistic, and two, most importantly, as an entrepreneur, patient?
So, Freddie, I think that, one of the things is that with regards to all of these various detrimental climatic conditions that we are experiencing, right? At a stage, and people are starting to realize it faster than in the past, anyways, is that climate change is a real thing. Climate change is a real thing, and at the end of the day, if we're not going to take action, things are really going to go south for us, and everyone is going to be forced to go sustainable at some point in time, right? And if we are constantly, taking all of these various instant gratifications instead of really working for the long-term goal, which is, a sustainable planet, um, well, then doomsday is going to come faster than we think. So, with regards to being patient as an entrepreneur, that's probably one of the most important things as an entrepreneur. There's ups and downs continuously, and they actually call it the emotional roller coaster, and a lot of emotions, and things don't always go as you hope they go. So that's on an entrepreneur side. However, from a people changing side, and that's also going to take time. People love instant gratification. There are just certain things that people just take for granted, and like the laundry detergent that we speak about. Regular laundry detergent is so instantly available to everyone, right? So people don't really even look anywhere else necessarily, right? So it takes time to actually teach people to start to think about these things and to educate them to then go a different route. So everything takes time, but there is no better time than right now. As there was always a saying about the best time to have planted a tree was 50 years ago. But the second best time is right now.
The stats are staggering, and you can look at it from any one of a number of different perspectives. I look at it from, okay, well, 24 trillion microplastics in the ocean. Seems problematic, and not seems. It's a huge problem. So what's in the oceans? Well, fish are in the oceans. Geez, Ben, I love seafood.
Yes.
I love shrimp. I love fish. Oh, my dog likes salmon treats. So yeah, I think that no matter where you are on that spectrum, whether whether you're like Ben and you're already there and you're doing something about it, or if you're like, I know something is wrong, but what do I do and where can I begin? Because oh my gosh, the world is huge, and this is 24 trillion is a large number, and I'm overwhelmed, and so I'm just kind of like with debt, where you just kind of ignore the mail.
Yeah, and that's exactly how how a lot of people respond to this currently. However, there's different things to sustainability as well. Whereas, like our laundry detergent, for example, and a lot of other sustainable items out there, it actually makes life easier. Living minimalistic, for example, it really makes your life easier. Like with our laundry detergent, so you have a small little packet that you throw away, right? Or you can even bury it in the ground because it's biodegradable. But now I don't have to take out my trash 10 times a week because I don't have like jugs like this that I have to put in the trash. And so it's not, sustainability is actually, it's a good thing. It's an easy thing to do, and people should just start doing it, right? Like, a lot of these huge companies, they have all of these big plastic packaging, and one of the big reasons for it is publicity, right? So it's not even like that they need it. So for instance, liquid laundry detergent comes in a big bottle, but it's 80% water, right? So you don't really need it, but it looks good on a shelf, right? But now it looks good on a shelf, but so it's a lot about capitalism and people seeing things, but less about, it's not about the big thing. It's about that's just publicity.
It's very go big or go home. So if you see the big jug of XYZ
It looks like value for money.
detergent, boom, you see it,
Exactly.
you get it.
Yeah, exactly. And it looks like value for money. More is better, but not necessarily. Not necessarily at all. More is not always better. Sometimes less has the same effect, and it's better actually.
I'm in my late 40s, and I've come to learn that oftentimes less is more.
That's true. Absolutely. Coming from so I'm actually originally from South Africa, and coming from a third world country, I never really looked at sustainability in the way that I looked at it in the last 3 years, because coming to Luxembourg, very strange things. Like I got here and there were like 5 bins for various recycling, various types of, you have for glass, you have for plastic, you have for your food. And I couldn't believe, like, people actually do this out of their own will. I was like, that's a lot of work,
Yeah.
And because in South Africa, coming from a third world country, there's like a lot of stuff just laying on the floor, and it's actually terrible. But people just, once again, they take it for granted. They take it like it's just, well, that's how it is, But it doesn't have to be like that, number one, and it's very bad, actually, like being like that. It's, if you go to the beaches in South Africa, a lot of the beaches there, well, number one, they look like crap, right? Number two, it's detrimental to the wildlife and things that are there. And there's a ton of wildlife in South Africa and in Africa, of course, but in South Africa there's a ton of wildlife, and all of this plastic and all of that, a lot of that stuff that can't be digested. So yeah, coming here once again, after being here for a while, I was like, wow, this is actually a huge thing. And once again, it's an education thing. I was educated here by seeing how many people actually follow the rules, actually do recycle, and now it's like I'll rather spend a ton of time recycling than actually doing the dishes, which is not necessarily the way to do it. But yes,
I'd rather go through my trash than wash the dishes.
well,
we're
at
going
least
to clip that one part and send it to everybody on the Salty Llama staff.
Yes.
I want to shift the conversation, Ben, from the waste factor to chemicals. And I will never forget the time that I pulled that. This is pre-Salty Llama, so using a little bit more detergent than I had planned, but it was like, oh well, just it's, you can never be too clean. And you take it out the washer, put in the dryer, take out the clean clothes from the dryer, and then you everyone loves that warm clothing feel, so you cuddle up to your freshly dry clothes, and you just inhale, and I felt like I inhaled poison. Because at a distance,
that's true.
It smelled great. It was fresh. It's like outdoors, springtime, babies frolicking in a flowery field. And man, oh man, you put that stuff up to your nose and take a big whiff, and I'm like, oh man, what happened to me? Did I just execute myself? And I know that's a little extreme, but you don't. With Salty Llama, there are no parabens, no phosphates, no chlorine, bleach, no harsh chemicals. How do you make it smell good? Because it smells fantastic.
So there's actually there's something called chamomile oil, I believe, that gives it the fragrance, right? So most of what Salty Llama is composed of is a coconut extract, so very much just natural, right? However, something smelling fresh doesn't mean it's clean, right? If you can take your deodorant and spray it on your clothes if you want, but that doesn't mean your clothes is clean, right? So what our product does, it cleans. It doesn't have a super strong smell, but it cleans, right? It cleans very well. And at the end of the day, if you want to smell good, well, you can get yourself some deodorant, right? But with regards to the chemicals that are in various other laundry detergents, it's toxic to the environment, and it's toxic to the to our water life, right? When it actually goes down the drain and ends up into all of the various water channels out there. So, and I mean, once again, right? So, what's that saying that, I can't exactly remember, but it was about, oh, it's just one straw, said 7 billion people, right? So it's a similar type of thing. 7 billion people do their laundry. Like you doing your laundry once isn't going to kill 50 million fish, but 7 billion people doing it with the same toxicity, they are going to kill 50 million fish, right? So, so yes, at the end of the day, the effect of our detergent and the ingredients in a large scale is a fraction, if not nullified, right, of that of these various other laundry detergents out there. Even the sudsing, and once again, it's very much a marketing thing, right? Even the sudsing, for example, so suds, right? Suds is not a thing, right? Suds does not clean. It doesn't clean at all. Like sudsing is literally, it's just a marketing thing. So if you like busy with your clothes, if you decided to do a hand wash, for example, and you see all the bubbles, like that's just display, right? So there's nothing that actually cleans with regards to the bubbles, right? So very much consumerism and capitalism built into all of these things that people. I've actually seen someone on Amazon give us a review that said SaltyLama does not sud like regular laundry detergent, right? Which once again, right? So you can Google it if you want, but it has no effect on actually cleaning.
Education will play a huge factor in advocating for this kind of product,
Massive.
and then what you have that's going to be rolled out next year. But I wonder how much of a role untraining and unconditioning ourselves is going to play, because humans are creatures of habit. It doesn't matter where you are. You can be in a rich country, a poor country, you can be in a developing country, but habits are habits. And if we're used to going to the grocery store, seeing the big jugs, seeing the big boxes of detergent, and just grabbing what's convenient, Salty Llama, it's in an envelope. And I mean, you're going to go with what's convenient. That's just the natural proclivity.
Oh, once again, I think it's about awareness, right? So getting people to become more aware of the actual impacts of what they are doing in their day-to-day lives. And then, well, it's their own responsibility at the end of the day to unlearn it. It's a difficult thing. It's a difficult thing. Once again, you said, humans are creatures of habit, and to unlearn these various habits, it's a difficult thing. It's a really difficult thing for people. But you at a stage, I don't know, 30 years ago, or not sure how long ago, but doctors were promoting smoking because they were kind of like, yeah, smoking is good for you. Look at this guy riding his bicycle on the Tour de France, taking a couple of drags. Until, well, all the actual data came out and said, look, smoking is really bad for you, right? It's like extremely bad for you. And then it took people a really long time to realize it. So I think at the end of the day, it's going to take time. It's going to take time, and I really hope we do have the time to actually solve it, because at this trend, I'm very glad that the world is on a trend, with the Paris Agreement actually kicking off on the 1st of January 2021, and governments jumping in with like a ton of legislation. The private sector is also starting to align to this new normal. In Luxembourg, for example, when it was the pandemic, Luxembourg, I don't know if you know, but it rains like most of the year here. It's usually very cold, and it's you never really, like in the winter time especially, you never see the sun. In the pandemic, I believe, we hardly had a day without sun. So just to give you that type of, why? Because there was no cars on the road. There was, no one was really polluting as we are used to polluting. And then, it's also the reason why all of the sustainability stocks went sky high. And which is a good thing. So once again, I think it's going to take some time, but the quicker people realize that, your one act of polluting might not be detrimental to you, but times that by 7 billion people, it becomes a huge thing.
Absolutely. And I just keep going back to the oceans because so many of us, and of course I'm in love with food, so going back to seafood, I'm like, well, geez, do I ever eat seafood again? Come on, man. But no, in all seriousness, maybe that's what it takes. I'm on this team of people who are raising awareness and telling people about this product. It's new. It's visionary. It's just and it's so cool because no matter where you are on this spectrum, you could be somebody who's like, well, I don't believe any of this garbage, and then a younger relative will be like, well, what about this? Can I show you this? It starts with a conversation. You could also be someone who has known about this for more than 10 years. So it doesn't matter where you are on this spectrum. This is something that we can all do. And this is just one simple action that we can take to start to chip away at the problem.
Just to kind of highlight the importance, or that this is real, right? Is in the last 5 years, I believe, every single country in Europe had its hottest day ever recorded in the last 5 years. Right. So let's say 100 years of recording, but your hottest day was in the last 5 years. So, climate change is a huge thing, and it has a lot to do with all the plastic in the water and with all the CO2 emissions. But, before the consequences get too serious, people really need to change. Because these consequences, a lot of these consequences are irreversible. Especially at the trend we're going at right now.
Before we wrap up the interview, I'd love to ask, because you are an entrepreneur, you've got a great idea and a killer product. What is your advice for somebody with an idea of any kind of business, and they also have the drive to make it happen, and they're on the fence, or they've just started? So at the very, very beginning phases, what's your advice for that person?
So my advice, Freddie, would be, number one, right, keep your job until, right, so start your company, but keep your job until that company starts generating enough money to carry you, right? And the reason why I say this is because I didn't do that, right? I didn't do that 2 years ago. I did not do that. And you have all of these great plans, and you're ready to execute them, and things are probably not going to go, especially in the beginning. Things are probably not going to go the way you think they are going to go. Things seem amazing. Like I told you, I left my job 2 years ago, with 15 ideas on a whiteboard, actually, and none of them worked out. Right? Not that they weren't viable, but there were a lot of problems, and then we actually eventually, after about a year, right? So we only launched our actual product about just under a year ago. So yes, number one, keep your job, right? Keep your job, go at it in your spare time. But keeping a job also gives you that capacity to sustain yourself whilst you actually build this thing from the side. And then secondly, it's don't expect it to happen overnight, right? Hard work pays off, but it doesn't pay off the next day, right? So you're not going to work 24 hours for 3 days straight and make a ton of money. Unfortunately, that doesn't work. So keep at it. Consistency, have a balanced life, and just consistently go at it. At some stage, I'm actually, so I did my commercial helicopter pilot license at a stage, and I was just starting my training, and I had the instructor next to me, right? And funny enough, you in the beginning you take charge of the helicopter, and you just you're on your way to the ground, or you're on your way backwards, and you after 8 hours of this, you tell yourself you're never going to be able to fly this thing, right? Every time, obviously, the instructor takes over, otherwise you would die. But then all of a sudden, you just get it right? And it's a very strange thing. All of a sudden, you just hold the stick, and there you are. You're just hovering, right? And that's very much like business. It's you grind. It feels like you're going nowhere, and then all of a sudden, something happens, and then the same thing happens. Nothing. So you stay on a level, and then all of a sudden, something else happens. And yes, I can go on with business for a long time, Freddie, and seek advice, seek help, and also, don't always want 100% of nothing, because a lot of entrepreneurs out there, they have this idea, and they just want to keep this company to themselves, whereas we went the total opposite route of literally distributing the company across many co-creators, which I think it's an amazing thing to have done, because everyone actually feels a part of the company. So don't keep everything to yourself, because 100% of nothing is still nothing, right? Whereas a smaller percentage of something huge is something.
I will add that, and I've said the word visionary more than once in this interview, Ben, but your payment program and your plan for this company is visionary, and I've never heard of anything like it. And
I appreciate
it just blew my mind.
Thanks.
And it's shifted my view of a lot of things, and really just reaching out to the company on LinkedIn, hearing back from you, a CEO, on LinkedIn, it speaks volumes.
No, thanks, Freddie. No, and that's also another thing. One should never think that you are above anyone else. So a CEO or whoever you want to be, right? Whether you are the janitor or the CEO, you are not above or below anyone else. You're a human, and at the end of the day, if you do not accept that, well, then you shouldn't start a company in the first place, right? Because you're not going to come right. You have to. Everyone is a human, and if you treat everyone as a human, then the more you give, the more you will receive as well.
The website is SaltyLama.com. By the way, that's one L in llama. And that's something else I learned this year.
Yes.
the one L spelling. SaltyLama.com is where to go to learn more about Ben's incredible company. He's the co-founder and CEO. They make eco-friendly laundry detergent, new products going to be rolling out next year as well. And because I am an affiliate partner, a co-creator within the company, please tap that affiliate link in the show notes and grab your discount. Use the code Freddie Cruz, by the way, when you pick up your envelope of eco-friendly laundry detergent from Salty Llama. Ben, my man, appreciate you coming by the show.
Thank you, Freddie. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Freddie's Huge Ask podcast.